rumor was that one of the rooms on that hall, room 213, was cursed. No one had a class there for years. Supposedly, it had been sealed off after an incident in the 80s, though no one knew exactly what that meant. That changed during my senior year when they reopened it. The English wing was under renovation, so a few classes got moved around temporarily. I was an office aide during third period, and one morning Mrs. Wells, the secretary, handed me a note and said, "Take this to Mr. Burke, room 213. I froze for a second. "You mean the old science room?" She shrugged. "I guess they're using it again. Go on, Han." The walk there was normal enough. The floor tiles changed color about halfway down the hall, from bright white to dull gray. The lights hummed louder than the others in the building. The door to 2113 looked newer, like it had been replaced recently. When I opened it, the air that came out was cold and heavy, like walking into a basement. Inside, it was completely still. Desks in neat rows, dust covering everything. A clock on the wall showed 10:42. The blinds were drawn tight, but faint sunlight pushed through the cracks, cutting narrow lines across the floor. I set the note on the teacher's desk and turned to leave, but the door wouldn't open. The handle twisted, but it felt like it was glued shut. That's when I noticed it. The silence. The hum of the vents was gone. No sound at all, not even from the hallway. Just my breathing. I glanced at the clock. Still 10:42. And then, for a split second, the light in the room changed. Brightened, dimmed, brightened again. And when it settled, everything was different. The dust was gone. The desks looked newer. There were papers on them now, open notebooks. The air smelled like pencil shavings and chalk. A faint whispering sound filled the room, like students murmuring during class. But there was no one there. Then, movement, in the back corner. Someone was standing there, tall, thin, facing the wall. Its body twitched slightly, like it was breathing too fast. Its clothes were wrong. The fabric looked faded, but not from age, more like washed out, colorless. When it turned its head, I saw that its face wasn't quite right, like the features were smudged together, shifting every few seconds. And its eyes, those didn't move. They locked on me instantly. The lights flickered again, and the thing was suddenly closer. Not by much, maybe a few feet, but enough to make my stomach twist. Then everything snapped back. The dust was there again. The papers gone. The clock read 10:42, and the door opened easily. I ran back to the office. Mrs. Wells looked up from her desk and said, "You okay? You were gone a while." I checked my phone. It said 1:08 p.m. 3 hours had passed. I didn't tell her what happened. I didn't even know how to explain it. That night, when I got home, I noticed something strange. My hands looked older. The skin was dry, thinner somehow. My mom even commented that I looked tired, like I'd aged overnight. Over the next few weeks, it got worse. Every time I passed that hallway, I'd see the light under room 213's door flicker. And sometimes I'd catch a glimpse of something standing inside, tall, motionless, right where that thing had been before. Then the time gaps started happening again. I'd be in math class, look down at my notebook, and when I looked up, everyone was packing their bags. My phone would show an hour gone. Once, I blacked out while walking home and came to in my own driveway, 2 hours later, with no memory of getting there. The dreams were the worst. Always the same. Room 213, desks filled with silhouettes and that thing standing by the wall facing away. Every time I dreamed it, it turned a little more toward me. I thought I was losing my mind. Then, one afternoon after practice, I stayed late to grab something from my locker. The hallways were empty. The sun was setting, casting long orange shadows through the glass doors. As I passed the east hall, I heard it, ticking, slow, steady, from behind room 213's door. I stopped. The door was cracked open. Inside, the room was dim. Dust hung in the air like smoke. And there it was again, the clock, frozen at 10:42. But the thing wasn't in the corner this time. It was standing right beside the teacher's desk, watching me. It didn't move, didn't breathe. Its head tilted slightly, like it recognized me. The light shifted again, and I swear the walls bent, not visibly, but I felt it, like the air folded in half around me. My vision warped, and in that split second, I saw dozens of versions of the same room, all layered over each other. Students in old clothes, teachers I didn't recognize, decades of people, all trapped in the same space, doing the same thing, frozen mid-motion, like a glitch in reality. And through all of it, that creature stood in the same spot, always facing me, always closer. When the light flickered again, I was alone. It was night outside. The hallway clock said 8:03. 5 hours had passed. That was the last time I went near that part of the building. But whatever happened in there, it didn't stop with me. Over the next few months, I noticed people reacting differently when they saw me. Teachers asked if I was okay, saying I looked older. My reflection in the mirror didn't look the same. Wrinkles around my eyes that weren't there before. Gray hairs at my temples. By graduation, I looked like I was in my late 20s. And every so often, time would slip again. I'd wake up to find the date wrong on my phone, or the clock in my room frozen at 10:42. Sometimes I'd catch glimpses of it, the creature, just barely visible in reflections, standing far behind me, always still, always waiting. The older I get, the more I realize it's not random. It's following me. Or maybe I'm following it, because every time I lose time, I come back looking a little older. And every time I see that thing, it looks a little more like me. Now, I'm 23, but when I look in the mirror, I could pass for 40. My hands tremble when I write. My hair's thinning. My mom doesn't even like taking pictures with me anymore. I tried researching old yearbooks, old records. There are stories about a fire in room 213 back in 1982, a chemistry experiment gone wrong. 6 students and a teacher dead. The teacher's name was Mr. Burke. They say when the firefighters finally got into the room, the clocks inside were all stopped at 10:42. The weirdest part? The remains they found didn't match the records. The teacher's body was missing completely. In his place, they found another figure. Tall, thin, skin stretched too tight, face unrecognizable. Now, some nights, I wake up at 10:42 on the dot, and the world feels wrong. The air feels thick. The light from the blinds looks too still. And sometimes, just beyond the shadows at the edge of the room, I see movement. A tall, colorless figure. Standing perfectly still, watching. Every time it appears, more hours go missing. More lines appear on my face. I don't remember the actual impact. They say I was driving home from work, late around 11:30 p.m., when a deer darted across the road. I swerved, lost control, and hit a tree. They told me I was lucky to be alive. When I woke up in the hospital, my head was wrapped, my vision blurred, and there was a ringing in my ears that felt like it came from inside my skull. The doctor said I had a concussion. Mild traumatic brain injury, he called it, which sounds contradictory if you think about it. He said I might experience memory issues, dizziness, maybe some disorientation for a few days. But it wasn't dizziness, and it wasn't memory loss. It was time. Time didn't move right after that night. It started subtly. I'd blink, and the television would change channels without me touching the remote. I'd look down at my food and suddenly realize the plate was empty, like I'd eaten without remembering it. I thought it was just the medication, painkillers messing with my sense of continuity. But one afternoon, I was sitting in my living room, staring out the window, when everything froze. The birds outside stopped mid-flight. The second hand on the clock stopped ticking. Even the dust motes in the sunlight hung motionless. The only sound left was a low hum, deep and steady, like the vibration of a refrigerator magnified 1,000 times. Then, movement. Something at the edge of my vision. I turned slowly, expecting to see the nurse, or my reflection. But it wasn't either. It was a figure standing just outside the window. Too tall, its outline blurry, like heat distortion. I couldn't see its face, but I knew it was watching me. The instant I blinked, everything jumped forward. The clock ticked again. The birds moved, the hum was gone. And so was the figure. When I told my doctor about it, he smiled the way people do when they don't believe you. Said it was likely a hypnagogic hallucination, a waking dream. He increased my medication dosage. That night, time skipped again. I remember lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, and then suddenly it was morning. The sun was already high, my alarm clock flashing 12 in red digits like it had lost power. When I stood up, my joints cracked. My face in the mirror looked different, subtly older. My hair longer, my stubble thicker than it should have been after one night. I checked my phone. It said it was Wednesday, but I'd gone to sleep on Monday. 2 days, gone. My voicemail was full of missed calls from work and a message from my sister asking if I was okay because I hadn't answered in a few days. I wanted to believe I was just losing track of time, that I was sleeping through it, but that didn't explain the physical changes, the growth, the muscle stiffness, the faint ache deep in my bones. It felt like I was skipping through my own life, missing frames in real time. The next episode happened while I was in the shower. The water pressure faltered for a second, a little hiccup, and everything went silent. No sound of running water, no movement. I looked down and saw each droplet hanging midair, frozen against my skin. Then that hum returned, deep, rhythmic, not mechanical this time, but organic, like breathing. And when I turned toward the bathroom doorway, there it was again. The same figure, closer this time. It stood just beyond the steam, its head tilted slightly to one side, like it was studying me. I wanted to move, to scream, but I couldn't. My body was locked. Then its hand twitched, not toward me, but toward the wall, and for a moment, the whole world seemed to fold inward. The tiles bent, the ceiling stretched, and my vision tunneled. Then, snap. The sound came back. The water was running. I stumbled out of the shower and collapsed onto the floor, shaking. When I looked up, it was night again. The clock on the wall said 10:42 p.m. I don't even know what day it was anymore. After that, I stopped sleeping much. Not because I didn't want to, but because I was afraid of what I'd wake up to. But the gaps happened anyway. Sometimes while I was eating. Sometimes mid-sentence while on the phone with my sister. I'd blink, and the light outside would be different. Shadows longer, food cold, phone battery drained. Days turned into weeks, then months. I tried setting up cameras in my house, hoping to catch what happened during those missing hours. I recorded myself sleeping, working, eating. The next morning, I checked the footage. The timestamps didn't make sense. One video jumped ahead 6 hours in the middle of the night. No cuts, no static. Just me in bed 1 second, and then the clock in the frame suddenly showing a different time. But what chilled me wasn't the missing hours. It was what appeared right before each skip. In 3 separate videos, at the edge of the frame, the same figure stood partially visible, tall, distorted, head tilted toward the camera. And the closer it got in each clip, the longer the missing time became. I tried showing the footage to my sister, but when I played it back in front of her, the figure wasn't there. The footage was clean. Only the time jumps remained. She begged me to see a neurologist. I agreed, just to make her feel better. The doctor ran MRIs, EEGs, everything. Said my scans showed temporal lobe hyperactivity, the part of the brain linked to memory and perception of time. He said trauma could cause that, maybe even hallucinations. But hallucinations don't make you age. When I left the clinic, I saw my reflection in the glass doors. My face was gaunter, eyes sunken, hair peppered with gray. I was 31 years old, but the man staring back looked 40. I could feel the moments leaking away. That night, wow, I fell asleep sitting upright on the couch, the TV playing some infomercial. When I woke up, there was dust on the screen. The living room window was cracked. My plants were dead. And my phone said October. The last date I remembered was May. I'd lost 5 months. There were voicemails, my sister crying, saying she couldn't keep checking on me anymore, that she did everything she could. One from my landlord, threatening eviction. Another from a debt collector. I tried calling my sister back, but her number was disconnected. I left the apartment that night. The street outside was nearly empty, but the air felt off, still. As I walked past the alley near the corner store, I heard that hum again. I turned and saw it standing under a flickering streetlight. It was clearer now, human-shaped, but too elongated. Skin stretched pale and tight, like it was made of thin wax. Its head twitched with a slow, deliberate rhythm that matched the hum. Then it started walking toward me. The air thickened around me, pressing against my chest. The sound grew louder, so deep it vibrated through my bones. I stumbled backward, but it didn't matter how far I moved. With every blink, it was closer. The hum reached a peak, deafening, suffocating, and then everything went white. When I woke up, I was in a hospital again. Different one this time. The nurse said they'd found me unconscious in an abandoned lot. She asked if I had any family to contact. I told her my sister's name. She checked her chart. Then she frowned. She said my sister had died in 2021. It's 2028, 7 years gone. I didn't even argue. I just asked for a mirror. The man staring back at me wasn't 31. He was at least 50. The skin under my eyes sagged. My hands were veined and worn. And in the corner of the hospital room, in the reflection of the polished metal sink, I saw a faint movement, something standing just out of sight, watching. The hum started again, faint but growing, a steady pulse beneath the hospital's mechanical rhythm. I closed my eyes and whispered to myself, "Don't blink, don't blink, don't blink." But I had to. And when I did, the room was empty. The clock above the door read 10:42. I've stopped trying to understand it. I don't think it's a brain injury anymore. I think that thing, whatever it is, exists between seconds. It feeds on the moments we take for granted. Maybe it noticed me when I hit my head, when my brain stuttered for just a second. Maybe that was the crack it needed. I've aged decades in what feels like weeks. I barely remember my own life now. My memories are stitched together like broken film. Jagged, inconsistent, fading at the edges. And that hum never really stops. It's always there, somewhere in the background, waiting for me to blink again. If you ever wake up after an accident and the world feels slightly off, if clocks skip, if your reflection looks wrong, if you hear that low hum vibrating through the air, don't look toward it. Don't let it see you notice. Because once it knows you can feel the gaps in time, it'll keep coming back to take what's left. I work maintenance at a small gas station off Route 14, about 40 minutes outside of town. It's one of those places that never really closes, open 24/7 for truckers, drifters, and the occasional lost tourist. The night shifts are quiet, usually just me, the clerk inside, and whatever animals dig through the trash behind the dumpsters. I took the job because I needed something steady. After my divorce, I moved into a trailer nearby, and the gas station was hiring. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid for my rent and gave me something to do other than drink myself numb. I used to think the quiet was peaceful. Now I can't stand it, because that's when I hear the ticking. It started a few months ago. I was replacing a light out by pump 3 around 2 a.m. The air was thick with fog, that heavy kind that swallows the road and makes the world feel small. I remember hearing a faint tick-tick like a wristwatch right next to my ear. I turned, expecting to see the clerk, but no one was there. The sound stopped. I figured it was just the cooling metal from the broken light, or maybe my mind playing tricks on me from lack of sleep. But then, I looked up. For just a second, the fog parted, and across the street, maybe 20 yards away, I saw a man standing perfectly still. No flashlight, no car, just standing in the middle of the dark road facing the station. Something about the stillness made my chest tighten. I called out, "You all right?" No response. I blinked, and he was gone. Just gone. That's when I noticed the ticking again, this time faster, like a dozen watches all beating at once. And then everything changed. The fluorescent lights above me flickered, and suddenly it was morning. The fog was gone. Sunlight was cutting through the sky. I stood there, mid-step, still holding the light fixture. The same cars were parked out front, but everything else was wrong. The trees across the highway were taller. The sign had a new logo, and there was a new model of truck at the diesel pump that I didn't recognize. When I walked inside, the clerk wasn't the same guy. He looked confused when I asked where Ryan was, said he'd been working there for years, and that the only Ryan he knew was the guy who used to work here before the renovation in 2019. It was 2023 when I went outside that night. The clock on the wall said April 7th, 2027. I thought it was a prank, or maybe I'd had some kind of head injury I didn't remember. I demanded to use their phone and called my sister. She sounded older, tired. She started crying when I said my name. She said I'd been missing for 4 years. There was a police report, flyers, even a candlelight vigil. They assumed I'd been murdered. I didn't know what to say. When I finally convinced her to come pick me up, she almost didn't recognize me. She said I looked exactly the same. Same hair, same clothes, not aged a day. I had no explanation. They ran tests, MRIs, EEGs, sleep studies, all normal. No brain trauma, no sign of psychosis. The doctor said I was probably suffering from dissociative amnesia, maybe triggered by trauma. I wanted to believe that. God, I did. But the ticking didn't stop. It followed me. At night, it started faintly, from behind walls, under the bed, inside the walls of the trailer. Sometimes it sped up until it wasn't ticking anymore, just one continuous whirring pulse that made my teeth ache. And every time it happened, I'd lose time again. Once, I was taking out the trash behind the trailer park. I turned around, and suddenly the dumpster was rusted through, and the empty lots were full of new mobile homes. Another time, I blinked while driving to town and nearly crashed because the road had been repaved and the gas station sign was gone. The world was moving ahead without me, like I was falling through cracks in time. The police came once after my sister called them, said I was wandering barefoot in the middle of the highway at night, muttering to myself. I didn't remember it. They found me miles from home. The last night it happened, or maybe the most recent one. I can't tell anymore. I was back at the gas station. I'd gone there trying to trigger whatever it was. I thought maybe I could figure it out or stop it somehow. It was around midnight. The new clerk had locked up early because the pumps were closed for maintenance. I walked around the lot, flashlight in hand, scanning the tree line, and there it was again. That same ticking. It was coming from the far end of the property, past the fence line, near the tree where my truck had crashed years ago. Each tick felt deeper this time. Not just a sound, but something inside me, like my pulse was sinking to it. The flashlight flickered. And then I saw it, standing in the fog again. The same man, or what looked like one. His outline was stretched, wrong, too long in the arms, his neck bent slightly to the side like it was broken. He didn't move, but the air around him shimmered, bending light. And behind him, the world stuttered. The fog folded in on itself, the road behind him flashing through seasons, green, orange, snow, black, again and again. I stepped closer, drawn like something magnetic was pulling me. My vision pulsed in sync with the ticking. Every blink brought a different sky, day, night, storm, clear. I couldn't breathe. The air felt thick, electric. When I was only a few feet away, I could see his face, or what was left of it. No eyes. Just black voids where they should have been, and a mouth that didn't move but vibrated slightly, like it was whispering without sound. And then, just as I took another step, the world went silent. Not quiet, silent. No air, no sound, no feeling, and everything stopped moving. The wind, the trees, even the fog froze like painted glass. He reached out his hand, and I realized what I was looking at. It wasn't a man at all. It was me, older, wrinkled, face hollow, skin pale, eyes gone. I tried to scream, but the sound got trapped in my throat. He pressed his palm to my chest, and I swear I felt time tear, like a sheet being ripped apart. There was a blinding flash, and then I woke up in the middle of a field. No road, no station, no town, just grass and the sound of crickets. When I finally found my way back to civilization, a gas station off a highway I didn't recognize, I saw the date on a newspaper by the register. July 3rd, 2049. I'm still the same age, same clothes, same bruises from that night. I haven't changed, but everything else has. The town where I used to live doesn't exist anymore, bought out, replaced by a logistics center. My sister died 20 years ago. I visited her grave. My name's etched next to hers, same date of death, April 7th, 2023. The clerk didn't even blink when I told him I used to work at the station, said the company shut that location down decades ago after a gas explosion. Nobody survived. I'm writing this from a motel room now. I don't sleep much. The ticking is louder here. Sometimes it sounds like it's coming from the walls, other times from my own heartbeat. I've started to notice something strange, though. When I catch my reflection in the mirror, it doesn't move quite in sync with me anymore. There's a lag, just half a second, but it's there. And sometimes when I move too quickly, I see the outline of him, the older me, standing behind the reflection, waiting. The hum's been building again for days. I think it's almost time for another jump. I don't think it's random anymore. I think it's a pattern, like something's pulling me through time, toward a fixed point that hasn't happened yet. Maybe it's death. Maybe it's something worse. I've noticed the ticks have changed. They're not just faster, they're clearer. They sound like a clock counting down. If I disappear again, if I end up wherever it's pulling me, I just hope someone finds this.